This is what we're making, a sinuous ring, nice and simple. We're going to make a sinuous ring, just means snake-like. Start with a 100 mil long piece of 2 millimeter wire. This is 3 mil, but I'll be doing it, it's just brass, so it's for a demo. But use 2 mil, it'll be easier, and you'll see why. There are two ways to do this. You can start with an S shape, so we're going to do repeated S shapes, but if you want it continuous from one end to the other, that end has to go this way and this end has to go this way, so that when you make the ring, you can solder those two ends together and it'll be a continuous curve. You can also start straight, put a few S's in the middle and end straight, and that way when you cut it to length and form it, it'll be easy to solder the two straight ends together. We're just going to use flat, round pliers for this and make a really sharp bend. If you can't make a sharper bend than this, anneal the metal again, which is what I'll do now, and then I'll show you with the sharper bend. So this is 2 millimeter square annealed wire. We're going to, for this one, we're going to leave a straight bit on the end. We're just going to make really sharp bends. So always make sure that the round bit of the pliers is on the inside of the curve. And straight. So I want these two straight ends to be able to just meet when we cut it to length. So it'll be easy to solder. Yeah. So I've got my shape. Now I'm going to roll it through the rolling mill. So open the rolling mill right up. Put your metal all the way through. Gently close the mill. Take your metal out. Half a turn tighter. Roll the metal through. Another half turn. And that'll do. Now we have our shape, and it's the right thickness. Now what we'll do is measure the length, cut it, anneal it, and solder it. Measure your ring on a ring sizer. You need to get the inside diameter. Always zero your calipers. Measure on the knife edge. Wiggle it around a little. Write this number down. Write your number down. Measure the height of the wire. Add that to your first number. And multiply by pi, which is 3.14. This will give you the length to cut your ring shank. Mine is 60 millimeters long. You can just measure it with your steel rule. Now what we want is the straight bit to line up with the other straight bit. So you can shift this back and forth. This will be on the middle of the curve, but it'll be relatively straight. So we just shift that back. So we'll cut from there to there. Use your saw and then file the ends flat. So after you've sawn it, brace it against your bench peg. Number 2 cut flat hand file. Now anneal it. Once you've annealed it, it'll be soft and easy to form. Use your flat half-round pliers. Always put the curved bit on the inside, and you just roll it into roughly an oval shape. And all we want is for the ends to line up perfectly. When you get it close, you can push one end slightly down, push it past, bring it back, push the other end slightly down, push it past and bring it back. And when it does that, when you do that, it should snap into position and it should be a nice join. It should have tension holding it together so you can solder it at this point. If it doesn't line up perfectly, you could saw through. You could open it up, file the ends again. I find it easier to saw through. Solder it. Hold the ring in your third hand, joint up, just a little bit of flux top and bottom. 2 bits of hard solder that you've placed with your flux brush. Flux always needs to go on what you're soldering and on the solder. A neutral flame. Gently put the flame on and off the metal until the flux dries out. Once it goes crusty and dry, move into about 50 mil away. Brush back and forth on the join. The flux will go clear and the solder will flow. It should happen just about that quickly. Now, quench it and pickle it. And you always have to pickle it to get the flux off before you can see whether you did a good job or not. So once you've pickled it, neutralized it and dried it off, next thing is round it up on the ring mandrel, because this is always easier to tidy up when it's slightly proud. So just gently push it onto the ring mandrel. Use a rawhide hammer. Now with this ring, you want to be careful because of the shape of it. It doesn't take much hammering for it to get really big. So just gently round it up. If you remember what size you started with, you don't want to go past that size when you're rounding it up. If it does get too big with the shape of this ring, you can just hammer it back together a little bit and go back on the ring mandrel. So just keep your eye on the size. You don't want it too big. And then once you get it shaped, we'll sand that. So I have it shaped. You shouldn't need to file it. If you do, it's the same number 2 cut flat hand file. But you should have had a good join. Just take your sanding stick, gently follow the curve, and you want to sand until all of the solder is invisible. And use a split mandrel on the inside to tidy up your solder join there. So the joint's invisible and it can be polished now. Use a wooden ring stick and the Tripoli in the polishing room and you're done. This is what we're making. A sinuous ring. Nice and simple.